Hello Team FD and welcome back to Winners and Losers, the show where we look at the highs and the lows from the weekend just passed in the world of Premier League football. Joining me on today's show is Joseph Tomlinson. How was your weekend, Squire?
Yeah, not too bad, mate. Not too bad. My parents were down, so lovely to see them. Obviously, United dropped points, not the best performance. Need to get them signings bedded into the side quickly. But other than that, very good. How was yours, mate?
Oh, it was wonderful, thank you. Went to Edinburgh, what a beautiful city, although I was absolutely fuming because Edinburgh Castle was at max capacity. They sold out of tickets. How do you do that for your biggest landmark in a city?
Unreal. Good.
They are already just coming out of COVID in Scotland, so that may have had something to do with it. But I love a castle, mate. I was absolutely dismayed, Joseph. Anyway, let's move on to the football in hand. And I want to know from you guys at home, if you don't agree with us in terms of our winner and loser, let me know yours in the comments below. And me and Joe will hit you up in the first hour. Drop this video a like if you do agree and a dislike if you don't as well. Let's get that going in the comments. Now, let's move on to the talking point, Joseph, which is Romelu Lukaku. He absolutely crushed it against Arsenal at the weekend. His performance has been widely praised, and rightly so. What impressed you in particular about his 90?
Oh, my word. That was just brutal, wasn't it? That was just brutal, mate. That's what impressed me. It was as dominant of a centre-forward performance as I can remember in recent history. We've obviously hyped Lukaku to the maximum over the last sort of 18 months and talked about how amazing this signing is for Chelsea. I've spoken in my predictions, said I think he's going to win the Golden Boot. I think he's going to win the Golden Boot quite comfortably, to be honest with you. I think he's going to be able to bully and beat pretty much every side in the Premier League. At least 16 of the sides in the Premier League are going to get the Lukaku treatment. What impressed me most, though, to come back to your question, I think is actually his play back to goal. Some Premier League fans that haven't seen Romelu's development at Inter Milan with his back to goal will have been really shocked by his hold-up play for Chelsea yesterday, because at Manchester United his hold-up play left a lot to be desired. I think it's fair to say. When he went to Italy, Antonio Conte spoke to him and said, you need to develop this part of your game. I'm going to want you to play with your back to goal almost 90% of the match. And he's obviously come on leaps and bounds in that factor. And when he has that defender pinned with his back to goal and his first touch, and he can bring in Mounts, he can bring in Havertz. He had I nearly called him Hakimi then. He had Reece James coming on the outside of him like Hakimi, to be quite honest with you. Marcos Alonso coming up that left wing back slot, like the throwback to a prime Marcos Alonso era. Everything about this Romelu Lukaku performance was pretty much complete. 1.41 non-penalty expected goals against Arsenal is like frightening from one player, man. Frightening. This is just going to be a devastating season for him. I can see it already.
Yeah, and it really helps that he's got the mobility of those two floating eights, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Playing off him. They're always available for a pass. I was really impressed by Mason Mounts and Kai Havertz's movements in the game. Always provided him with an outlet. And we're putting together just some really tidy build-up play on both sides of the pitch. I saw you raving about Havertz on Twitter as well. Do you think what we saw against Arsenal was Chelsea's optimum lineup?
I think what you're going to see with Chelsea is you're going to see Romelu play, obviously, as that number 9, 99% of the time. Then you're going to see a real exciting mixture of Havertz, Mount, Pulisic, Werner, Ziyech coming in as well, because they've got so many options and they're so deep in that position. I don't think one player is going to be a nailed-on name on that team sheet. Yesterday, Kai Havertz was purring. Like, when he is at his best like that, he is, as I tweeted, borderline unplayable. When he starts to drift out to that left, sucks the right back out, and that allows the space for Romelu, and that allows the space for players like Marcos Alonso to get in behind. He's just such an intelligent footballer, right, left foot, brings players into the game. So lovely to watch. And it's not just him that does that either. Mason Mount does a similar sort of role, sucks the fullbacks in. I thought Kieran Tierney had a howling day yesterday. Thought he was really poor positionally, especially going backwards. I mean, Reece James had a riot out on that right wing-back slot. Obviously, Tierney needed a little bit of help, didn't he, that he didn't get. But especially for their second goal, what on earth is he doing coming so central and allowing Reece James 20 yards of space in the box? Really poor defending that. But that can happen when Mount sucks you in and Havertz sucks you in and you're not sure, should I go, should I stay, who am I marking? It's chaos. And when Lukaku can occupy two centre-backs, don't see Chelsea losing many games. I don't see them losing many games at all this season.
Yeah, I think Tierney was compensating for the fact that he knew Mari was going to get rolled at any given moment. And yeah, Saka didn't give him an awful lot of assistance down that left-hand side, did he? And when I asked you, was that Chelsea's optimum lineup? I, of course, meant from an attacking perspective because N'Golo Kante wasn't even featuring, was he? And they looked just as good with Mateo Kovacic and Jorginho anchoring the centre of that midfield. I mean, frighteningly, Thomas Tuchel, after the game, thinks there's a big room for improvement. Have a listen to this.
We trained very, very hard, double sessions, so I had the feeling we were a bit leggy. Second half, we overcame like some minutes in the beginning, and then we controlled it. Very, very good. Created some chances. I think we deserve to win, but still room to improve.
Now, we do have to caveat this with the fact that Arsenal were missing several first-team players, weren't they? Particularly in the form of Ben White, Gabriel and Thomas Partey, who would have formed a nice triumvirate at the base of that Arsenal defence/midfield, and maybe they wouldn't have been as porous as a result. So I do feel for Mikel Arteta from that perspective, and I can see them improving, tenfold in the coming weeks. But he's now starting to pick up some unwanted records, isn't he, Joseph? He's lost 20 of his 60 games in charge. Arsene Wenger didn't register his 20th defeat with the Gunners until his 116th game. And they did finish last season in convincing fashion, but the underlying numbers are starting to look a little bit unforgiving. So stick with me on this, but Arsenal's Premier League opponents now have a higher expected goals return of 78.9 than Arsenal do themselves under Mikel Arteta. So over the course of his tenure, they have struggled in attack pretty emphatically. And yeah, the opposition have claimed, a deserved amount of points off of them. So in short, yet to put together a productive forward line. Now, they've spent a lot of money, Joseph, particularly in this off-season, 137 million in the summer window. How do you rate the business conducted by Edu, the technical director, and how do you rate how Arteta is utilising that talent?
Yeah, I think it's £207 million spent in total by Arteta, and he's signed 13 players. He's given 8 players new deals since he's been at the club as well, so he's had significant impact. Let's not forget as well that he was kind of promoted from that head coach position to manager under Edu as well. But prior to this summer, the business seemed an absolute mess. I feel like this summer they've at least got a little bit more direction. They're clearly trying to sign a younger profile of player. Arsenal fans might disagree with me here, and they have overpaid for a couple of players. Ben White's an overpayment, Ramsdale's an overpayment. I think Ødegaard is probably an underpayment. Actually, that's a very good deal at £30 million. So this summer, I think the business has been better directed, if a little bit costly. Previously, it's been a total and complete cluster. However, I do still believe, I've been positive about this Arsenal side all the pre-season. I'm not going to change it after the first 2 games. I think when players come back into this Arsenal side, the spine of the team is going to completely change shape. The Emile Smith-Rowe that we're seeing at the start of this season looks extremely exciting. A real high ball carrier, a real high chance creator. When you actually get him with Partey behind him, 2 solid centre-backs, Saka at full fitness, Martin Ødegaard in there as well, and obviously Aubameyang to come back into that side. No offence to Martinelli and Balogun, but they're not ready to lead the line in a Premier League side that's looking to push for Europe. I think Arsenal will be fine, but they've got to bear with it because these first 5 weeks are going to be brutal. And I'm telling you, on Wednesday when they play West Brom, West Brom are absolutely flying right now. They are playing brilliant football down in the Championship, and that is a really tough game for Mikel Arteta and this Arsenal side in the EFL Cup, playing around earlier than the other big boys. They cannot afford to lose that game under Mikel Arteta because the pressure will go from, okay, we're getting beaten by Chelsea. Chelsea are much better than us. Okay, we're getting beaten by City. City are much better than us. Okay, we're getting beaten by West Brom and Brentford. The pressure goes up twice. So I think Wednesday is a huge game for Arteta, even though it's only the League Cup.
Yeah, I can understand the frustration of Arsenal fans as well, can't you? Given that sort of performance, that level of performance, because it compared so starkly to the way they started under Mikel Arteta, when actually he was very good at setting out his side to absorb pressure and hit bigger, let's say, or better sides on the counter-attack. And in this game, really hard to decipher what he was trying to do. 9 of the starting 11 either signed or extended by him, so very much his team. But like you said, and like Mikel Arteta said after the game, it's going to be a different story when all his players return, hopefully.
It's really challenging at the moment. We are missing 9 players, and the majority of them, there are big senior players. It's what we have. We put out there a team that it would be probably unprecedented in the history of this football club. But credit to the boys, how they trying, the passion that they are trying to bring to the team. They are playing with a lot of courage.
This week's winners come from @Callum Jupp, and he said it's got to be City. And we tend to agree, Callum. They thrashed Norwich 5-0 to register their first victory of the season. It was the same scoreline that the Canaries suffered when they visited the Etihad in the 2019-20 season. Now, Joseph, not a wholly surprising result as a team, but did any individual performances catch your eye?
Yeah, I mean, that's an understatement. I mean, this is one of the more predictable results of the weekend, that it was going to be at least 4 goals and Norwich weren't going to score at all. And obviously, I think they produced 1 shot over the 90 minutes. Manchester City absolutely battering them. As far as individual performances go, I think Gabriel Jesus and Ferran Torres are 2 players to really keep your eye on this season. After the game, Pep Guardiola was talking about how Gabriel Jesus is slightly more comfortable in wider positions, and what I think we're starting to see now for Gabriel Jesus is a transition from a number 9 central striker into a wide player under Pep Guardiola, and that's something that's happened gradually over the last sort of 12 months, and I think you're really starting to see that now. He's obviously playing out there consistently under Pep Guardiola, and when he starts to link with Kyle Walker in that right-back slot, it looks really good. Norwich got absolutely battered by that Manchester City right-hand side. Daniel Farke, in his pre-match, in his post-match, was saying, look, we've worked all week. All of our training sessions have been focused on stopping the ball across the pitch, the lateral ball to the fullback, who then plays that vertical pass, whether it's chipped or in behind our left back or right back. And they just were powerless to stop it. It happened over and over and over. Janalis, the new left back, he got hooked at half time, of course. I think Mumba came on, didn't he? Didn't fare much better, to be honest with you. But yeah, I think that he's one to watch, Gabriel Jesus, playing a little bit wider this season, and Ferran Torres playing a little bit more through the middle, because I think Guardiola also said that Ferran Torres has slightly better instincts in front of goal than Gabriel Jesus. And obviously he got, 7 goals in 15 starts. He got that pretty impressive hat-trick against Newcastle last season. Gabriel Jesus' numbers are amazing. I think it's 1 in 2, isn't it? It's about 80 and about 160, something like that. I just think that you're going to see Gabriel Jesus played as a wide man this season rather than through the middle quite as much. I think even Sterling might get more minutes through the middle than Gabriel Jesus this season.
Even from a mental perspective, following someone like Sergio Aguero, who was just so ruthless, seemed to take its toll on Gabriel Jesus at times. I think his instincts are fine in front of goal. I think he's been a little bit unlucky, and I think he's one of the more underrated strikers in the Premier League. Yeah, let's hope he fares well in a wider position then. Let's lift the lid on some of the numbers then, because like you said, Joseph, the Canaries only had 1 shot to Manchester City's 16. XG had the game down at 2.44 to 0.03. That's like sneezing goalwards, isn't it? Norwich have now lost 12 consecutive games in the Premier League, which is the longest, no, the second longest, sorry. Let's not do them a disservice. Second longest losing streak in the competition's history. And they failed to score in 11 of those games. So very quickly, do you think they're destined for the drop once more, Joe? And did you put them in the bottom 3 when we did the Premier League predictions?
No, I didn't. I didn't put them in the bottom 3. And yeah, potentially. It's very early still. It's very early. And obviously Brandon Williams is going to come into this side as well. He's doing his medical this morning. I expect that's probably going to be announced this afternoon. I don't think that's going to be a huge upswing. The issue does appear to be that Buendia's creativity is not going to be covered by Milo Rashica. As comfortable as Todd Cantwell has looked again in the Premier League, I probably should have gone and swapped them and Brentford around. I think I had Brentford in 16th. And them in 17th, did I? Something like that. Or whatever I had, you know what I'm trying to say. I should have had Norwich in the bottom 3 and Brentford one place above it. But you never know. It's a long season. And Norwich fans, I think, will be slightly comforted. I think anyway it's better for Norwich to get these games out of the way against Man City, against Liverpool, against early doors, because you're not expected to win them. You're growing into the season. Early doors, you can use it as sort of fitness and getting into the flow of the Premier League. You're not going to win these games anyway, so at least you're using these and getting them out of the way while you're not quite at 100%. If you get what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. That sort of game isn't going to define their season.
Yeah.
I just don't rate the summer transfer business they've conducted.
No.
I think they're like 5 players light, to be perfectly frank. Although Brandon Williams does help, but still not a huge amount of Premier League minutes under his belt. And it's kind of just a similar sort of profile of player to what they currently have. Anyway, let's move on to losers then. And this comes from @BHAJA. And Watford are firmly in the mud, in his opinion. Anyway, they were beaten 2-0 away from home by Brighton, with Duffy and Morpay scoring. Now, only one of Watford's starting 11 registered a shot on target in this game, so equally as meek against as Norwich were against Manchester City. And again, not wholly surprising, because we rate Brighton and they're a very good side. They've made a very good start to the season. I think taken some people by surprise in terms of the confidence behind their performances, Joseph. Do you expect this fine vein of form to continue, given the winnable fixtures they've got coming up, I would say?
Yeah, absolutely, man. Like, I had them 11th in my predictions this season before the start, and I think they are firmly set for a top 10 push, to be totally honest with you. I think the squad is much better than people give it credit for. The forward line, yes, it might not have an individual star up there, but I think Neil Maupay is going to score 10 plus this season, maybe up towards 15. Hopefully that shoulder injury isn't too bad. He had an MRI on that yesterday, of course. And let's face it, they took 8 points from their opening, or they took 8 games, I think, to reach 6 points last season. And we're already seeing them on 6 points now. So they're already better than they were last year by some considerable distance. They look much more comfortable in the lead as well this season. Last year, I think they dropped 25 points from winning positions, which is unacceptable from any side at any level. So they look much more comfortable now. Graham Potter, we know, is their best asset. He's one of the best coaches in the league as well. I think really good news to get Solly March tied down to that new contract as well. He looks so comfortable. In that first game against Burnley, we saw Pascal Gross start the match as a left back. I don't think we'll see that again, to be honest with you. Solly March going back into that sort of back 4 in possession, kind of a back 3 out of possession. It's quite an interesting shape that Graham Potter is deploying down there. And they've got players to come back as well. You know, Dan Burns still got to come back. Lamptey's still got to come back. Danny Welbeck still got to come back. Joel Veltman might even operate in one of those 3 central defensive positions. So I'm really positive about Brighton this season. If they can get a striker in on deadline day because of Neil Maupay's injury, then fantastic. But even if they don't, I think they're set up to push towards the top half of the table.
Excellent MRI insights from you, Joseph. How has that come about? Did you message him? I know you're friendly with him. You've got you had a couple of interviews under your belt. You did.
I did, mate. I did. I just sent him a DM saying, "Hope you're all right, mate." After that one, and he just said, "Yeah, I've got my MRI scan today," and that was yesterday. So fingers crossed it comes back all clear for him, because he started the season really well.
What a lovely guy. Never messaged me to ask me if I'm all right. You know,
you never have shoulder injuries that require MRIs, mate. You never have shoulder injuries that require MRI. You've just got a cough usually.
You should. All right, anyway, let's move back on to Brighton then. Only Chelsea and Manchester City have kept more Premier League clean sheets in 2021 than Brighton. Of course, Graham Potter's system always produces very sound defensive numbers, always very good at limiting the chances of the opposition, and that's how it's playing out at the start of the season once more. But chief to that is Yves Bissouma. 10 tackles and interceptions in this game. That was a game high.
Get into United.
2 dribbles completed and 1 assist. Can clearly play at a high level. We've been saying he's a Champions League caliber for quite some time. I just think the £50 to £60 million price tag is putting a few big sides off.
He's only got 18 months left on his contract, mate. I think
it's coming down. That price tag's tumbling.
They need to sort that out. That's a problem for them, because if he goes into next summer with a year left on his contract, that price is like 30 to 40, and that's a bargain, isn't it, for him?
Yeah, it is. But you wouldn't back them to sort of go and find another Bissouma while selling him for a fair whack as well.
They bought him Wepo as well, didn't they, from Leipzig? So they might already think they've got their Bissouma replacement ready at the club.
Was Mwepu Leipzig or Salzburg? I can't remember. One of the Red Bull family. Yeah, one of the Red Bull family. Pascal Gross also got an assist in this game. He's now provided 10 Premier League assists since the start of last season. Only Harry Kane, KDB and Bruno Fernandes have gone at a better rate than that. So another underrated footballer for you all, and one we've loved on Football Daily for quite some time, putting in another fine performance. Let's move on then to our moment of the week, Joe. I've got 3 candidates for you. You get to decide. It is Duffy's header against Watford. Everyone tweeting me that. I think just because of the torrid time he had on loan at Celtic last season. I'm glad for him. I'm glad to see he's enjoying his football at the start of this season, because it did not go according to plan last campaign, did it? Little Fish has gone with Danny Ings' volley.
Oh, Danny! That's outrageous, wasn't it?
We have Greenwood scoring yet again. I got that from a fair few Manchester United fans. I'm going to leave the Nice and Marseille debacle for Euro Football Daily. They're reporting over on Euro Football Daily all about that, Henry and Duke. So go and check that out this afternoon. Which one would you go for then of the aforementioned 3?
Well, I added the Greenwood one. I
know you did. You just throw me under the bus there. I also added what Tammy is that doing at the bottom of the script?
I also added Tammy. Like, I watched Roma against Fiorentina last night for Tammy Abraham's debut. I was quite excited to see how he'd do. He started brilliantly, obviously. Got the keeper sent off, got 2 assists. He looks like he's going to be a brilliant link player with Lorenzo Pellegrini in that Roma side. But yeah, I wanted to just add and shout out Mason Greenwood, because, you know, that's 8 in 10 now in the Premier League. He's close to 4 shots per 90 and 3 dribbles per 90. His stats are all moving in the right direction, but overall, Jesus Christ, he's got the Ings' volley in it. What a strike! What a strike, man! Mings to Ings, finally the link up we've all dreamed of.
Yeah, exactly. And I think I heard a pretty astounding stat as well to do with Mason Greenwood, that he's only 6 or 7 goals off George Best's record as a teen scoring for Manchester United. So
yeah, he's behind only Norman Whiteside and George Best in terms of team goals.
20 in October, right? So he's got a fair chunk of time to better the great George Best as well, which is pretty incredible. Right, that's it for today's winners and losers. Thank you very much for tuning in, guys. And if you enjoyed this, click on screen now for yesterday's Sunday vibes. Like, subscribe to the channel with notifications on, and we'll catch you next time.